Welcome to Built, Not Burnt Out. I'm Melissa Petersen, attorney, health coach, fitness instructor, and founder of the Becoming Method, where I help people build stronger bodies, stronger minds, and more aligned lives through structure, discipline, and sustainable habits. Today, we're talking about emotional weight versus physical weight. Joining me today is Patti Seigel, who's been a yoga instructor for more than 31 years and is also a Reiki master and instructor. Through yoga, energy work, mindfulness, mindset, and body awareness, Patti helps people reconnect themselves and create greater balance, healing, and well-being. Patti, thank you for being here. This is a topic that I think affects more people than they realize because emotional stress often shows up physically in the body. Today, we're going to explore that connection, talk about how emotional weight impacts physical health, and discuss practical ways people can begin releasing that weight and moving forward. So, Patti, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks for having me, Melissa. Yeah, so that was a nice, welcoming introduction. And I just want to add, I've also been in sales my entire life. And I think the way I look at sales is we're all in sales, regardless of what you do. And I like to feel that whenever I'm in sales, I'm in advertising sales. I help people advertise and get noticed in the magazine. I always bring in some sort of increase to get the sale. I don't think about I'm selling them something. I'm trying to help them get to the next level. So whether I'm advertising or teaching yoga or training or doing a little Reiki work, I'm intuitively, I feel like that's my gift, intuitively connecting to the person and feeling the best way that I can help them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, are you ready for our first question?
All right, fire away. I'm ready.
All right. So the first question is, how does emotional stress, trauma, or unresolved emotions show up physically in the body?
Oh, that's a heavily loaded question, and that's a big one. So I believe it's different for everybody. I think emotional stress can show up in your mood. You can be just stressed, tight as a ball. You can be, your mind might just ramble and do a little bit of I call it frontal lobe issue, where you're just thinking negative thoughts. The body might feel tense and tight. The stomach might be bothering you. It can affect any part of the body, and I believe emotional stress and trauma shows up differently in everybody, and I think it's really important to for people to get to know themselves and how things feel in your body, when things feel right, when things feel off. And when things feel off, maybe do a little work around that. And so I always do a little work around myself, not only teach, but for example, if I'm up in the middle of the night for some reason, and I did this last night, and I just have a lot going on in my world right now. I actually got my bolsters, which are behind me. You're seeing them right there. And I just laid down and I did a little self-care and self-love. So I took my long bolster, I took a T around my chest, and I just literally laid on it like I was hugging a tree. And the comfort and just the feeling of being on a cloud and saying nice things to yourself. So that is one of the way I help myself. So I think when you become aware, your brain will intuitively tell you what you need to do. And I think awareness is always the first key. Becoming awake to, oh, there's a problem. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like these ruminating thoughts. I don't like the tension in my body. I don't like the tightness in my stomach. I don't like when I'm talking to people, I'm not coming from the heart. I might be talking about my problems versus having faith in my future and coming from the heart. So I think, like I said, individual and awareness.
I agree with you. I think awareness is half the battle. And in the work that I do, I see uh, people underestimate how connected the body and the mind really are. I think we're just
Mm,
not even aware of that. And a lot of emotional distress eventually becomes physical stress. And I see it showing up, and I've also experienced it myself with some chronic fatigue in my past, inflammation, digestive issues, trouble sleeping, weight struggles, emotional eating,
mhm.
constant tension, overtraining, burnout, and nervous system dysregulation. And and I see people, they in this sometimes, they're doing a lot of things right physically, they're working out and they're eating healthy and they're staying disciplined, but they're still stuck because emotionally they're stressed out, they're not getting enough sleep, and they're just operating in survival mode. And
Yeah,
I've experienced that myself. And so, no matter how hard we push, our body keeps the score, whether we acknowledge it or not. And so
so
I think
true.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I liked what you when you talked about inflammation because that's a biggie. And a lot of people don't even know. They might outwardly look fine, but
Yes.
inwardly have so much inflammation. And it might show up in allergies. It might show up in getting little sicknesses often. So I think it might show up in and not just inflammation, but hoarding. A lot of people who have stress tend to accumulate. And maybe we need to let go of some things, clear our space. And I always say in yoga, don't keep up with the Joneses. Clear
Right.
your clear your space and do not fill it until you feel that the time is right. Maybe you need to heal a little bit. Maybe you've ended a relationship or you need to end a relationship. A lot of people are thinking, oh, how can I meet Mr. Right or Mrs. Right? Let me go online. And instead of doing that, maybe spend some time alone. Maybe you're going to go through some stages of tearfulness and anger and loneliness. But guess what? You're going to come out the other side a better person and more ready to receive. So, whether
Yes.
it's a person or whether it's the right foods or the right self care, um, the awareness piece is huge for recognizing.
Yes. I agree. So, question two. Have you seen people focus completely on changing their body physically while ignoring what's happening emotionally underneath the surface? I think we kind of touched a little bit on that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's big for people, especially fitness people. And I'm in the fitness world too, and I see a lot of it at the gym. And and I think today we're living in a little crazy times. So people are thinking, "Oh, I got a wedding coming up. I gotta lose a inch and a half off my waist." I have a friend who's doing this, and then she's ranting about everything else in her life. And as she was talking to me, I felt the need to say, maybe you should slow down a little. And maybe that inch and a half doesn't really mean anything. Maybe it's psychological up here because she already looks good. And sometimes we compare ourselves to maybe an actress or somebody who has millions of dollars and is doing it artificially. And or they're using Ozempic or they're doing something of that nature. And I like to keep it real. And I think when you're trying to be in your best shape, you also have to really focus on loving yourself too. And I'm talking about myself when I say this too, because I'm a very busy person. And sometimes I'll go on a little rant myself of, I gotta get this, gotta get this. And I did it this morning. I caught myself and I said, you know what? Take a breath. You're gonna make this happen. Let's enjoy the process. And I don't think a lot of us enjoy the process today. I think we think about a goal and we think about getting there, but I think being present along the way, even your drive to the gym, be present, be in a good space. When you get to the gym, you can work out hard, but you can also be pleasant and connect with people in a nice way so that when you leave, you feel like, your heart's happy. And I like to have a happy heart. And for me, I work alone. So after this podcast, I'm going to go out and I'm connecting with a couple businesses and I'm going to pour into them in a nice way and get fed. And I like to feed myself. And we all feed ourselves in different ways. But for me, that's one of the best ways is to just connect a little. And when I'm at the gym, I give people tips, whether they want to hear it or not. Sometimes I'll see these young people, these young guys, and and I always say, breathe, exhale, use your core and exhale. You're going to get stronger. Ground your feet. And I do Anusara yoga, which is back body, and you're coming from a point of strength. And people don't realize that when you're in your back body, and I'm doing it like right now, I'm more in my back body than I was forward when I was leaning in here. When you're in your back body, you're in a sense of strength and you're more calm, you're more relaxed. And if you're doing, say, an overhead press like that, you're not going to injure yourself. Your shoulders are back, your belly's in, your feet are grounded. So there's so many ways you can be present. And I like to start by being present in my body because the body does not lie. The mind will try and trick us, but the body will tell us the truth. So when our body's feeling good and strong, usually our mind follows suit. But when our body's feeling anxious or fill in the blank, depressed, which is just another form of anxiety, it just manifests differently. What I like to do is when I'm feeling that I do a few yoga poses, I do a little breath work. I go outside. I have a little balcony here right outside my office. Winter, spring, summer, and fall. I take 3 deep breaths several times a day. I look up, I bring my hands up, palms up, and I ask God and the universe, what do I need? Please feed me. Take me to the next level. So there's so many ways we can feed our soul.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that, we lack that emotional awareness in doing that. And like you said, people at the gym are especially those people, those high performers. I think that they are ones that ignore what's happening under themselves emotionally. And I think a lot of people are also trying to control the physical because it's easier, it's safer, more measurable than dealing with emotions and stress and trauma or deeper internal struggles. And it's just, more mentally easy, I think, to focus on harder workouts, food and routines and appearance, like you were
Mhm.
talking about with your friend, and then just ignore those emotional patterns and everything that you're doing underneath. And I think our self speak is huge, like we need to speak life and love into our lives, and talk to ourselves like a friend.
Right.
Oftentimes we don't do that. And we just push and push, and eventually, we get to burnout because we override ourselves for so long. And I think that real transformation happens where our physical health and emotional health, they start working together instead of against each other. And you were talking about a lot of the self-care things that I think that we need to do for
Yeah, a lot
that.
of it's, don't you think it's a learned behavior from our past? A lot of us, and some of us stuff our feelings and we just
Yes.
stuff. And I always say, and I've said this in my past, I've gotten a little older and wiser, but I used to say to my loved ones that stuff their feelings, don't stuff your feelings under the rug. It's going to come out in the body. Express yourself. And I was always raised, um, you know, in a way that we had constructive criticism, healthy
Yes.
constructive criticism, and I can take it. So, myself and my 4 siblings, we all tend to talk about emotions. We like to work on ourselves. And I find the average person does not.
Right.
And it's very interesting to me because there's definitely a balance in it. You don't want to keep working on it so that you're just driving yourself nuts, but you want to work on it so that you can progress and make better decisions for yourself.
Absolutely. And I used to be one of those people that would stuff myself to stuff my feelings. And it took a lot of work to become aware of that and to recover from that. And that's something that I do when I help other people because I know how to deal with that now. And I've And I know a lot of strategies and ways. And so that is a huge thing. I think that a lot of us are doing. And that's how we end up with all, I mean, one of the reasons why we have so many people that are unhealthy and overweight and just diseased in their bodies.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you know, it's awareness, and I think you can help people in any way, shape, or form. And I think sometimes we have a gift and the right person might open up to us. I find a lot of
Yeah.
people will ask me a question or open up about something, and then you don't want to open up a can of worms, but you can dig a little deeper and give them something that can help them because we're all connected. And I call it the human condition. We're all dealing with something
Yes, that
every
we
day.
are.
So if we can know that we're in this collectively and help each other, I think that's what it's about. And not address your problems all the time, but find solutions.
100%. And I think this is a perfect transition into our next question, which is what are practical ways that people can begin releasing emotional weight while also improving their physical health and overall well being?
Wow, there's a lot of ways they can do that. Just from what I do and teach, breath work, I always like breath work because when you breathe and I like to sit, very erect in a chair or stand and do some release breaths, exhale through the mouth, do several of those. And when you release, the body just feels lighter. It feels lighter, and then it feels like it can go to the next level. Another thing might be exercise.
Yes.
Just get in action a little bit. You're having a bad day, go for a walk in nature. Nothing better than nature. And I do this. I have a friend, and I prefer going on walks in nature by myself when I'm looking to really release. But if I go with a friend, I like a friend who doesn't talk too much and I'll say that why? Because I think when they don't talk too much, we can notice the birds chirping. We can notice the deer in our presence. We can stop and say, hey, isn't that beautiful? Because finding the beauty in nature is really what we're there for. We're not there to just go out and talk about our problems. And at the end of the walk, you feel like you have more problems. So I think it's really important to watch your thoughts when you're working on yourself. Um, I also teach yin yoga, so I like restorative poses. Restorative poses help heal parts of the body, and you work on a longer exhalation, and it's called samadhi, which is heaven on earth when you're done the class. It's kind of like an aha moment. So when I'm done one of those classes, I could literally gaze outside for 20 minutes and just be in awe and not say a word. And I don't always do that, but I feel so at peace. And I think peace is really what we're searching for. And then I might go upstairs and I'm ready for something light to eat. And you're going to make a better choice after something like that, as opposed to, oh, I got to get this meal and I got to stuff it in because I've got 20 things I got to do, which a lot of people I see do today. They're eating ravenously. Um, I also think meal prepping is another way you can help yourself.
Yes.
Um, and maybe a Sunday meal prep, make a few things, plan your meals, go shopping.
That's
And
self care. Meal
yeah,
prep is self care.
and I always say when you go shopping, don't be starving, don't be ravenous, because if you're in that checkout line and you see all those oversized bars, don't buy them. Get something healthy in your cart. I'll even open it up and have a couple healthy things if I'm hungry, and go pay for it. But there's so many ways we can help ourselves. Take a walk, talk to a friend that's going to elevate you. Don't talk to that same friend who likes to talk about the problems all the time, and then when you're done you feel exhausted. So that's why I like coaching sometimes over therapy, and I think a therapy coaching is important, but I think it's always good to find somebody who can honestly say, "Hey, Melissa, can you handle what I'm about to tell you?" And when people say that to me, I'm like, "Yeah, and thank you." Because I love to hear honest feedback. And a lot of people don't go there with you. But I have one friend, and we're getting together tomorrow, and she does a lot of work on herself. And when we get together, it's like epiphany, 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 epiphany.
That's
We do healing work. We tell each other what we feel. If somebody's parenting wrong, if she has younger kids, and I've been through that, sometimes I'll bring her attention to something. And she'll thank me, and sometimes she'll bring my attention to me on something, and I'll say, you're absolutely right. So having a friend as an accountability partner that you can trust to grow, I think is so important. And I think you can, say nice affirmations. When I teach a yoga class, if we're in a quieting pose, I always say, say something nice to yourself you know? And I say, when you're brushing your teeth in the morning and the evening, look in the mirror. And whether you have makeup on or you don't, or your hair's a mess, say, I love you, Patty. I love you, Patty. Smile. Get to love that person at its best and its not so best.
You are right. Like self-love and self-care are huge. And I mean, I think a lot of the stuff you said, like the movement, the walking, connecting with nature, the breath work, you know, meal prepping, simplifying your nutrition, sleeping. We talked about sleep and recovery, and just like, and you said, you go after your classes sometimes, and you just like say nothing. You just sit out and enjoy life and in quiet. And reducing constant overstimulation is something that we really need, I think, in our society, because we're always stimulated. And just stopping fighting yourself all the time, and just letting things be sometimes is really good.
Mhm. And like I always say, it's the art of the pause. Think about a song. It's the pause in between the song and the words and the beats that make the song the song. And it's the same with life. It's our pauses that we get to reconnect or um, just take a look at what our day was like, recapitulate something, which I think is really important to recapitulate our
Right.
days sometimes and think about our wins versus I didn't get anything done today. I didn't. Sometimes I'm hard on myself. I didn't make any sales today. But then I always find I say, well, okay, I connected with this person. I had a good conversation. And then I'll say in my mind, and I'm going to close them. And I believe that when you feel that you're going to win in a situation, whether it's closing a sale, whether it's losing weight, whether it's being a better person or a better friend or a better partner, that you're going to do that and visualize yourself maybe on a whiteboard getting what you want. And I think it's really important to focus on what we want versus what we don't want, which again, something we're not trained in school.
Right. Right. Yeah, just having goals. We just float through life like leaves blowing in the wind, and we don't even have goals, you
Right.
know. I think that goes into bearing, all of this stuff and having emotional weight, and then that's showing up in our physical body as well. So with that, and you've already touched on a lot of this stuff, but like in your profession, what do you do to help people who are struggling with emotional weight?
Ooh, I ask questions. I like to, get that person thinking a little bit. I'll ask them, do you like to work out? And sometimes they'll say, no, I hate it. And I'll say, well, guess what? I'm pretty honest. I'll say, do you want to have to go to your doctor? And he tells you you're going to have a stroke if you don't lose 50 pounds or 80 pounds. And, you can wait until that, or you can do something about it now and be proactive. And I had a neighbor that I trained, and yeah, so there's all different types of people that some like to work out and some don't. So the people that don't like to work out, I say, find something that you like to do, whether it's dance, whether it's jumping rope. Um, and if you're struggling with emotional eating, um, I think the self-care, the self-love, making better choices, have an accountability partner are so important. If you live alone, um, maybe have a cup of chamomile tea. My first instructor in yoga, he was an amazing teacher. He said a lot of times we're not hungry, we're thirsty or we're emotionally needy. Maybe we're not feeling loved. Maybe we need a hug. Go hug a tree. Hug your pet. Pick your pet up if you don't live with somebody, or hug a friend. Or hug yourself. I always say hug yourself. Tell yourself something nice. So there's so many ways that we can nurture ourselves today. And
Yes.
I always say like get out of your own way and think before you're grabbing for those potato chips at 10 o'clock at night before you're trying to go to bed. You're going to brush your teeth and get them all out in the sink anyway. You might as well say to yourself, do I need a potato chip? No.
Yes.
I was my significant other buys potato chips, and I asked him if he could hide them, and he said no. Do you have no discipline? And I said sometimes I don't because I don't
That's
like that
honest.
stuff in the house, so I'm honest.
Right.
So sometimes I'm looking to reach and I say to myself, no. And then I'll do some maybe plain yogurt or I love the chamomile tea at night. And like tea is kind of like a ritual. You can get your favorite type of non-caffeinated tea and, sip it, smell it, and enjoy it, and whether it has lavender in it or whether it's chamomile or a lemon verbena or something like that, it's really lovely. And find something that's lovely. Make yourself feel good. Another way you can elevate yourself is by dressing nicer.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
what? Like sometimes I'll sit here because I work alone and I'll be in my robe. And I go, you know what? I'm going to go get dressed right now. And I'm going to, even though I'm not seeing that many people today, I'm going to put on something so when you feel better about yourself, you're going to make better choices. So as we learned in our coaching program that we're in together, be the 3.0 version of yourself, the boss who makes the right decisions, whether it's, no, I don't need that chip. I need a glass of water with lemon would do me a lot better because sometimes when we have that big glass of water, and I'm always have my water with me, we get filled up and we really realize that, we're not hungry. Maybe we're just gnawing because we need fill in the blank, a sale, a hug, a connection. Maybe you can text a friend and they say, give them a nice compliment. Or, hey, I miss
Yes.
you. Just say, hey, I miss you. Miss your energy. When can we see each other? And pour
Yeah.
into somebody in a nice way. Or go out and if you're standing in line with somebody, compliment them. Give them a genuine compliment. Hey, I love your shoes. But if it's a compliment, I always make sure it's genuine. So there's so
100%.
much we can do to help ourselves and help others so that we come back to our space, we feel better about ourselves.
I totally agree. And I think that, we talked about slowing down. That's like huge. I think, providing clarity and support, trying to regulate our nervous systems and having good relationships. We can create consistency and support people in, sustainable ways instead of being self-destructive. So we can, like you talked about, getting dressed, that's like identity work, trying to
Mhm.
elevate our identity of ourselves. I work with people and I provide accountability for people because we have these mirror neurons in our brains and we copy the people that we're around. And so if I try to be a person that people can be accountable to, and I look to others as well. And nutrition and movement, becoming aware of your nervous system and acknowledging things that you need to acknowledge in your body and your mind to help yourself. Uh, changing your mind about things, having a mindset shift about things. And then, just, stopping this burnout cycle that we have, or like people that just aren't even, doing anything at all. And just, getting ourselves to having stronger bodies and minds and aligning our lives without destroying ourselves, is something that I try to do with the coaching that I do.
Yeah, like you said, get out of that inertia feeling. And I think it's good to want to feel good. And I think that's one of my strengths. I'm a feel good person. I will spend money on good nutrition, um, good creatine, good protein, good food, and prioritize what's important to you and maybe write it down. If you're trying to lose weight or if you're trying to be nicer to yourself, write it down and then write a checklist, 10 things that you're going to do today or 10 things that you did at the end of the day, and check them off and feel good about it. It's kind of like you make a list for what you need to do in business and you check it off and you feel good. Do the same thing for yourself. And you could even do it on a voice loop while you're in your car. So you
Yes.
don't have to be writing. You could say, hey, today I'm going to da 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 da. And at the end of the day, today I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm very proud of myself and I'm very grateful. So have gratitude and be proud. Be proud of these
Yes.
little wins because little wins add up to big wins.
Awesome. I love what you say, Patty. And, I think that we've had a great discussion today on this stuff. And I will be posting this podcast on Facebook, and I'll have some links to Patty's Facebook, and ways that you can contact her, ways that you can contact me, and if you want more information or help in these areas. So I thank you so much, Patty. And I'm Melissa Petersen, and this is Built and Not Burnt Out. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.